So we looked at solving these equations using factoring in the 4 cases, where they're both positive and negative positive and positive negative and negative negative. But there are sometimes we get an equation like this, a quadratic equation like this, where we can't easily factor it. And I'll give you an example. Suppose we have something like this: 4x squared plus 5x minus 9 equals 0. Now, on the surface, this could be factorable, but you got a 4 here, and so we can't just write x. You have to do 4x and 1x, or 2x and 2x. And we have a 9 here, so it could be 9 times 1 or 3 times 3. There's a lot of combinations with this particular set, and they're adding and subtracting. I look at this and go, I don't want to factor that. That's too much. So what we want to do is instead use this quadratic equation. This is where this works for every value of a, b, and c. A, b, and c. And this always works. Now, it may produce a result that tells us there is no answer, but it will always work. It will always tell you what's going on. And so in this case, what we need to do is identify a, which is 4, b, which is 5, and c, which is minus 9. So there's our 3 constants in these 3 spots. And what we're going to do now is plug them into this formula. So this gives us x is equal to minus b. Well, b is 5, so that means minus 5 plus or minus the square root of. This is 5 squared minus 4 times a. See that a there? 4 times 4. We identified that a is 4. And then c is minus 9. See, our c value is minus 9. And this whole thing is then divided by it's divided by 2a. So 2 times 4, 2a. So 2 times 4 goes in the denominator. Okay, so now we're going to simplify this. Minus 5 plus or minus the square root of 25. Now we have all this. So we have 4 times 4, which is 16. And 16 times minus 9 is a minus 144. And then we got a minus. So this whole thing's positive. You see that minus sign working together? That gives us a positive. So 4 times 9 is 100, a positive 144, all divided by 8, 2 times 4. Now that is going to simplify a little bit. 125 plus 144, so this is minus 5 plus or minus the square root of 169 divided by 8. And that is minus 5 plus or minus. The square root of 169 actually is an even term. Now you can use your calculator. You should use your calculator. But that's equal to 13, and 13 over 8. Now that's a fine answer right there. You could simplify it more. This is minus 5 minus 13 over 8, and minus 5 plus 13 over 8. So, or, those are our 2 solutions. And that one actually is equal to minus 18 over 8. And this one is equal to 8 over 8, which is 1. So our 2 answers are 1 and minus 8 over 8. You can simplify that more. That's minus 9 over 2. So that gives us our 2 solutions to this. And it gets us those solutions without factoring. I look at it now and see this is probably quite factorable and all those kinds of things. But if we can't factor, we can come to this quadratic equation and we get it in this format. Make sure you have 0 on this side and all the other stuff on this side, and all the other stuff combined into this x squareds all together, the x's all together, and the constants all together. So ax squared plus bx plus c, that format. Then identify the a, b, and a c. A in this case is 4, b in this case is 5, and c in this case is minus 9. Now having identified those, what we'll have is this solution here. And by the time we work all this down, we get 1 and minus 9 halves. And so instead of factoring, which would be really difficult to factor something like this without quite a bit of effort, instead I can just use the formula. And if the formula produces a square root, let's suppose a number that doesn't have an even square root, or a nice number out of the square root. Suppose it's the square root of, say, 91 or something like that. we would just leave the square root of 91. We wouldn't simplify that. We would just say, that's fine. And we would just leave the square root of 91. It's not uncommon to do a problem like this and get a number that does not have a nice clean result to it. And you wind up with -5 plus or minus like the square root of 91 over 18 or something. And you just leave it like that. And so those things can happen. And probably on a test and some of the homework questions, you will wind up at the end of this where you get all of the values over here, 0 over here. You get it in this format. You find A, B, and C. You plug it into the quadratic equation, and then out at the end, you get something that doesn't work very well. And we just leave it with the root and the plus and minus and don't move on. This one just worked out to where, I randomly picked it, but it worked out to where, I thought it might work out a little bit, and it worked out to where we got okay numbers, -9/2 and 1, not terrible, and you can push this quadratic equation then down to some reasonable answers of 1 or, so the final answer here is x is equal to 1 or x is equal to -9/2. There's our final result from the quadratic equation. So that's the last type of solving quadratics, is using the quadratic equation because the A, B, and C are such that they don't factor very well.